Commission. We do have a relatively full agenda today, but it is my goal to get everybody out of here maybe a little bit early. As a reminder, please limit individual conversations during this meeting. This will ensure that commission members and applicants can hear one another. Please remain quiet until you are called upon. And when you speak, please come up to this podium, state your name and address for the record so that we can get it into our books. Before we vote on each item, I will ask if any members of the public wish to speak. Speakers will be given 3 minutes. To relay information to the commission members, please be thorough, but also mindful of your time. The agenda and documents for today's meeting are located on the PrimeGov website. If you're following along online, select Agenda on the right-hand side of the Historic Preservation Commission meeting to see which items are being discussed. Written comments received more than 24 hours before today's meeting are posted online and were shared with commission members. But at this point, new materials may not be shared with the commission, so if you brought anything with you that wasn't previously submitted, please leave it at your seat. We cannot accept the new information to review in today's meeting. Keith, would you mind calling roll, please?
Fudge.
Present.
Jordan. Corbin. Gaines. Meacham. Milner.
Present.
Poor.
Present.
Ramey. Whitley.
Present.
It sounds like we have permission to proceed. Procedures. Yes. Procedures for today's meeting are noted in the agenda. For anyone who is unfamiliar with that process, we would ask you to refer to that particular section. However, there are 2 items we do like to note specifically regarding this meeting process. These involve certificates of appropriateness and appeals. Regarding certificates of appropriateness, after an application is approved and the 10-day protest period has expired, the Historic Preservation Officer will mail the certificate of appropriateness to the applicant. City construction permits cannot be issued until that CA is issued. Please contact HP staff directly. Please contact HP staff for final design review inspection or to withdraw items that will not be completed. Regarding appeals to the Board of Adjustments, any person who is aggrieved by a decision granting or denying a certificate of appropriateness may appeal to the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustments. All appeals shall be made within 10 days of the commission decision by filing a written notice of appeal with the clerk of the Board of Adjustments. And we do have another commissioner who has joined us, Commissioner Remy. Do we need to do anything with a roll call? Okay, we've acknowledged it. Katie, what news do we have from the Office of the Historic Preservation Officer, and do we need to move anything today?
Nothing to be moved on the agenda today. The only item of note is that due to an error with the docketing and notice, item D2, HPCA 22-00049, cannot be heard today. We've already informed the applicant of that, and no action is required by the commission, so that will be on your May agenda.
So if you were here for HPCA 22-00049 and you wish to speak on it or learn about that particular project, we will not be discussing it today. If you want to leave, great. Just want to make that clear.
Feel free to reach out to staff if you were here to speak on that item or to learn more about that. We're happy to provide more information.
Okay, nobody's getting up and bailing yet. All right, we'll move on to the acceptance of minutes. Have my fellow commissioners had a chance to review the minutes, I think from the March 1st meeting? And if so, do we have any questions or perhaps a motion to modify or accept? Any questions? Can we entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second? Is that Commissioner Corbin? Yes. Okay. Moved by Commissioner Poor, second by Commissioner Corbin. Please vote in PrimeGov. Does everybody have their buttons?
I'm not
You're still-
logged in, but I
still
put
working.
aye.
Okay. The motion carries. The minutes were passed unanimously.
So just to note for IT and for our administrative coordinator, you were never able to vote, were you? Commissioner Milner was not ever able to vote. Nothing popped up on his screen. Was anybody else unable to vote? Everybody else was good? Okay. So, I mean, motion passes with you reflected as abstaining, if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I wasn't here, so I would have abstained.
Perfect. Okay, Katie, anything from code enforcement?
Nothing in particular to report. As always, feel free to reach out to staff or to the Action Center if you have questions about any items in the code enforcement report.
And anything under continuance announcements and requests?
We have one uncontested request. This means that the applicant has asked to be continued to the May 3rd meeting. This is HPCA 23-00014.
Perfect.
So we need a motion and a vote to continue that item.
Do we have a motion to continue HPCA 23-00014 to the May 3rd meeting?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Moved by Commissioner Poore, second by Commissioner Meacham. Please vote in PrimeGov.
Milner.
Okay, that motion to continue that item was passed unanimously, 7-0, or 2 abstained. 7 yay and 2 abstain. All right. Katie, what do we have under public hearings? Anything under dilapidated structures?
Nothing for dilapidated structures
Okay.
this month. We do have one item under National Register nominations.
Okay, that's NPRC 23-00001 at 3101 North General Pershing Boulevard. Looks like we're considering, do you want to do that part?
Yes, this is to consider a resolution regarding a proposed delisting from the National Register of Historic Places and the Oklahoma State Register of Historic Places for the Good Home House. This is a structure, and the address is a little bit confusing. It was originally in the area now known as Deep Deuce. It was moved to the state fairgrounds and subsequently moved to roughly the vicinity of Choctaw, Oklahoma, and then demolished. Because it was in Oklahoma City at the time it was listed in the National Register, we've been asked to provide recommendation on removing it from the National Register due to the demolition. Matt Pierce from the Oklahoma State Historic Preservation Office is here, and I'll let him explain a little more because we don't do this very often.
I think this is the first one for Oklahoma City for a while. So yes, I'm Matt Pierce. I'm the National Register Coordinator for the State Historic Preservation Office. And so as you likely recall, the Good Home House was demolished in September of 2021. Being at the state office, it takes us some time to then process a delisting with the house no longer extant and no longer meets the National Register criteria for which to be eligible for the National Register, and so therefore we prepared a documentation to remove it from the National Register. Since it was within Oklahoma City limits, send it to you all for your comment as well before we process it and send it on to National Park Service.
Other project? Okay, so looks like staff has recommended approval. This no longer meets the criteria. The house has been demolished. Do we have a motion to, or are we making a motion, or what is the action that we're taking on this particular one?
Yeah, it would be a,
Motion on adopting a resolution?
yes.
Okay, so it sounds like we need a motion to adopt a resolution regarding a proposed delisting.
I would make a motion to adopt the resolution to delist the Good Home House from the National Register of Historic Places.
Do we have a
Go
second?
forward. Does it go forward to council?
Yes, it'll go to council and then on to SHPO.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Meacham, second by Commissioner Poore. Please vote in PrimeGov.
Meacham, what is your vote, please?
Okay, that motion carries by a vote of 7 to 2. And we will move on to the consent docket, which we have 8 items today. Have my fellow commissioners had a chance to look at that consent docket? Is there any discussion on any of the individual cases or potentially a motion to approve?
So we do have one person at least present in the audience that was hoping to speak on an
Okay.
item on the consent docket. So we probably, and we've got quite a few people in attendance and quite a few items on consent. So we probably want to ask for
Sure.
anyone that wants to speak to come
Oh.
up to the front.
Perfect. First, any discussion from commission members on any of these items? Excellent. Any members of the public wish to speak on any of the particular items in the consent docket? Hello, come on up. Podium right here in the center, and if you'll state your name and address for the record, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
My name is Megan Clement, and I live at 244 Northwest 34th in Edgemere Park. I am here, my next-door neighbor is putting a wonderful new 4-car garage in an apartment, and progress is underway. And now I'm learning, yes,
May I ask which case you're speaking on?
I don't have the case number. It's Ed
Or what's-
Martin. Ed Martin.
Number 7, okay, perfect.
So HPCA 23-00031.
Yes. Sorry.
Everybody's, okay. His plan is to drain the new structures across my property and dig up part of it and go under my brick and go to a drain that is there on the opposite side. So the drain, to give you an idea, the drain is on the westmost point of my yard, and he's on the east of me, and his new property is on the easternmost side and forward. So it would come across all of my property, the entire thing. I noticed in the staff report that it was advised that, sorry, I can't see in these glasses, his plan to install the drainage pipes beneath the neighbor's brick walkway. They recommend the driveway should be graded to direct water toward the street and away from adjacent structures. So that's what I'm interested in seeing done. I would very much like it for him to carry the water a much shorter distance from a garage to the street than all the way across his front to back and all the way across mine. And I think it would serve him better to do that if that would work for you. I appreciate your time.
So just to make sure that I'm understanding, that the main concern is that this driveway is graded to direct water away from your property?
No, it's not gonna, he's higher than I am by a little. We're all on a slight slope toward the park. And so I have a drain on the park side, if you will, the west of mine. And he never asked me if he could do this. So he didn't have permission when he came forward with it. But I'd prefer that he go out to the street, and I said, just, you're in a garage, go to the street. Also, then I noticed the staff report that they advised that he grade his driveway sloping towards the street to get the water off adjacent structures. Well, I would like for him to please do that for my benefit as well,
Sure.
not have the water running on me and digging up everything to run his drainage pipes the entire width of my property.
Sure.
I
Okay.
appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thank you. So question maybe for staff, if it's a specific finding under the approval for this particular CA that the driveway should be graded to direct water toward the street and away from adjacent structures, does that satisfy, potentially satisfy the needs?
So that satisfies the you know, where the water from the driveway goes, but it sounds like he is directing other water perhaps from the other side of the structure elsewhere on the site. Listed on his initial application was to install drainage pipes beneath the neighbor's brick walkway. We technically don't have the authority to authorize him to do work on property that is not his own. That is actually here on the agenda, but on his, it looks like on the recommendation in the staff report, that item is not listed, and I was trying to scroll back to the original approval because I'm thinking we may have stricken that item from the approval. Angela may remember better than I do how we dealt with that, because we can't authorize a property owner to do work on
Someone
someone
else's property.
else's
Yeah.
property. That would be between him and that neighbor to coordinate on whether or not that's appropriate.
Katie, on case items for consideration, it's number 7, install the drainage pipes beneath the neighbor's brick walkway. So,
Which was a surprise to me.
right, so but it's not on, the number 7 is, so that would be my question, is number 7 addressed? No. Okay, so staff just listed 1 through 6, but maybe we could add to the specific findings and add number 7, that that part would be denied without permission of the property owner.
Yeah, let me look back at the,
We'll give you time to speak as well. We will give you time to speak as well.
So as far as the drainage under the brick walkway, that was only included in the staff report because that was part of the project. So we wanted the commission to have full knowledge of what was happening. But as noted in the staff report, we don't have authority over it. But it was just included as, this is what's happening in this project. But it was in the specific findings that we don't have authority on work underground.
Right.
And
Well, I mean, my comment from just this seat would be that if you're going to list number 7, then number 7 needs to be addressed later on.
Okay.
yep, my thought right now is that we would need to simply strike item 7 or deny item 7 because we don't have the authority to approve, well, we don't have the authority really to deny it either. I think it would have to just be stricken as an invalid item, but we should hear from the applicant
Absolutely.
as well.
Ma'am, is there anything else you want to share with us?
I think that's it. Any questions that you might have for me? No?
Not from me.
Thank you.
Anything, anybody, any questions from anybody else? Okay, thank you. Sir, would you like to come up and speak? And if you don't mind, state your name and address for the record once you get to the podium.
I'm having trouble hearing. I'm sorry.
Hey,
the
here-
echo. I think you want me to sit.
Yes, please. Hi.
My name is James Martin. I reside at 240 Northwest 34th. The water on our property has been a problem for Megan for several years. Her original complaint was our backyard that drops off almost 12 feet, was that the runoff was causing erosion and the dirt was running into her easement. The property, our property drains into her easement. The neighbor behind us drains into that easement. The neighbor to my east drains through my yard and into that easement. So when I try and deal with water, I have a house that from the front of my property, or from the front of my porch to the back of my house, the property drops 24 inches. The natural flow, and this was raised in the original application several years ago, the natural flow is from the front to the back. Now, the way we can deal with that is to either control it going into her property or just dump it over. I made a couple of offers to her, and really, a year or so ago, she was acceptable to the idea. I would either put a couple of 4-inch drains under her property, put it back the way it's supposed to be, and go to the drain, or I'll just stop at my property and let it fall over the edge. Her son-in-law had the stormwater people come out. They inspected my property. They issued me a permit. They said, I'm doing everything possible. Water is always going to run downhill. You know, it's just kind of a fact of life. The fact that 33rd Street, behind the block south of us, drains through my neighbor's yard, Dr. Grimm and his wife, and into the same culvert and into the same drainage thing is kind of a fact that we all deal with. When the neighborhood was platted back in 1920s, and our house was built in 31, when they put in Harvey Parkway, they raised the street, and they put in this drainage area and the catch basin that's in her yard and the catch basin that's in Dr. Grimm's yard. It flows under the last house on the block into the street drain and then on into the Edgemere Park and into Deep Fork Creek. So it's the way it was designed. I haven't changed anything. The installation of the retaining walls that you all have approved will help stop some of that water, but it's always going to go downhill. I can't change that. So,
Sure. I mean, I think all of that makes a whole lot of sense. I think the part that we're struggling with is potentially installing drainage pipes on somebody else's property that's not your own.
I'm sorry.
The part that we're struggling with is installing drainage pipes in somebody else's property that's not your own. We just don't have the permission to accept
I
that.
gave her the choice. I said, you know, I can stop right here and I can just put pop-ups that any water that we collect it's still going to run downhill. If you want me to, and literally I went out and bought 100 foot of the corrugated pipe to put under there, but that was a year ago or 2 years ago, and we didn't have the finances to finish the project. Now that we do, she's complaining of water running through an easement that's designed for water. I mean, I can't control it. I don't have a problem not putting the pipes there. It's just, I gave her the choice. So,
It sounds like, for the most part, the project is going to be approved with the exception of those drainage pipes.
I don't
That is-
care either way on the drain
and-
pipes. You know, I gave her that choice. So,
And us striking the drainage pipes from the approval doesn't mean you can't still work that out between you and your neighbor and do it. It just means that we can't include it on your CA because
Oh,
it's
that's
not on your property.
that's perfectly
It's
fine.
underground, so we typically wouldn't review it unless there was
It'll
a,
run across the
so-
top of her property unless she wants me to put it in. I don't really care that way. I've been trying to be
Sure.
accommodating.
Yeah.
there.
So I think, from my perspective, it looks like the project is going to be approved with item number 7 stricken. I would encourage you and your neighbor to try and work out whatever the best solution is for the two of you that you can possibly work out. I'm not quite sure what that will look like in the end, but my hope is that you all can come to an agreement.
I mean, we'll be glad to take whatever works. I mean, quite frankly, when she moved in, she had water standing in her driveway, and we allowed her to hook up to our French drain system, and her driveway drains through and into that back same area. So
Sure.
we'll do whatever works. It's her decision.
Yeah.
We just need a decision.
Yep,
So-
makes sense. Okay, so do we need to pull this one then?
so, yep, we need to vote on that one separately, and we just announce that item 7 has been administratively stricken because it's not a valid item.
Okay.
And then we could vote on the rest of the consent docket, although we may want to make sure there's not anyone here for other.
Does anybody else wish to speak on this one, this project, or the other items in the consent docket? Okay. Let's see. Do we have a motion on, which one is it?
I'll Cartwright, I would make a motion to approve item HPCA 23-00031 with the inclusion of deleting, for administration reasons, item number 7 under case items.
Is that,
Or,
Or-
and
right.
what else?
did you all hear that? Did we do this
Say-
appropriately?
Yeah, sorry, say that one more time for us.
Make a motion to approve with the, and to include the striking of number 7 under case items as an administratively, because it does not, it does, it's, what do I say? It's not in the purview of the Historic Preservation Commission underground.
So is that a part of your motion also to approve the consent docket?
I think that was just for,
No, that'll be a second one. This is just for
You
this.
just want to do that separately?
Just-
Okay,
Just
that's fine.
this for case number 23-00031.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Moved by Commissioner Jordan, second by Commissioner Whitley. Please vote in PrimeGov. Meant Commissioner Meacham, I'm sorry. Moved by Commissioner Meacham, second by Commissioner Whitley. There we go. Okay, that particular item on the consent docket has passed. Do we have a motion to approve any of the other items on the consent docket? Well, I guess before we get there, are there any other citizens that wish to speak on any of the other items in the consent docket? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the other items in the consent docket?
I would make a motion to approve all of the cases listed on the individual, on the consent docket, with the exception of item 7, which we approved separately.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Meacham, second by Commissioner Whitley. Please vote in PrimeGov.
Get them over just in case. Sounds like they didn't.
You all had an opportunity to vote? Okay.
I just hit that little button.
I love when you consent docket.
what, Keith?
I'm having trouble getting this to,
Can we do a verbal vote?
I think it's not even letting him get to that.
Oh,
yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So we can just announce.
Can I get the motions and seconds
Yes.
again?
Motion by Commissioner Meacham, second by Commissioner Whitley,
Minus number 7.
minus, yes, to approve the consent docket, minus number 7. We've got that recorded. Yeah, it's the same motion and second. Yep.
Fudge,
Yay.
Corbin? Meacham?
Yay.
Milner?
Yay.
Poor?
Yes.
Ramey?
Yay.
Whitley?
Yay.
Motion carries. Okay. If you were on the consent docket, congrats. Your project is approved. You have the option to stick around for the remainder of this meeting or head out now. All right, so we've got 3 cases for individual consideration today, seeing as we had to remove item number 2. We'll start with 1 HPCA 21-00192 at 2301 Northwest 26th Street.
This is consideration and possible action on application by John Reinke, Living Spaces LLC, for Carol Reinke for certificate of appropriateness to 5 revised item 1 garage replacement to include the installation of a metal overhead door with composition trim pieces elective. The garage was previously approved. The applicant has been unable to find a garage door matching what was approved initially and has applied for a revision to that garage door. The proposed garage door would be a metal product with composite trim applied over the metal, but the metal would still be visible. The guidelines don't support metal garage doors where they are close to and highly visible from the street. So we have recommended continuance on this to allow them to try to find an alternative product, and would recommend, if the applicant is agreeable, continuance to the June 7th meeting to get them time to potentially find a administratively approvable product.
Have they had any continuances previously?
No, this
Okay,
is the
perfect.
first time it's been heard.
Okay. Can you please state your name and address for the record?
John Reinke here.
Hi there. Okay, so are you comfortable with the continuance? When I look at this, it seems pretty clear to me that these materials are not
Oh yeah,
allowable.
this door right here that's in the picture is a temporary. You know.
Sure.
So, and the issue at hand that Katie just kind of summed up, it's mostly accurate. And essentially, the long short of where we find ourselves at the moment is that we had a meeting with a remote representative, and I was pretty clear about what we could and could not do. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then he got to talking to my mom, / client, and that got muddy. And so we found ourselves in bed to the tune of several $1,000s with this company. And at any rate, so we're trying to find a solution within their product line. And this one, I think, that we've actually submitted for is a fairly decent compromise. There's been some back and forth with me and the staff about what may or may not be potentially doable. And so I know that we can't really represent samples of things here in this context because of time and various other things. I happen to have samples, and I got an answer finally on what that overlay material is, which is a 5/8" thick composite overlay trim of reclaimed wood fiber and thermoplastic polymer. And I do actually have a sample with me if anybody would care to see it. The other issue that was really kind of a showstopper on this was the finish of the door itself, which right now is a stamped metal, which everyone has seen. And our proposed fix for that is doing a skim coat of either Bondo or similar epoxy, and then a paint, which gives us a nice smooth finish. So essentially, the product for this door at the end of the day would be smooth surfaces with fairly classic lines and an overlay. So one of the other comments that was directed to me from staff was, what about the durability of the finish? Will it pop off if someone strikes it? Pretty bonded. So if anybody's got interested in seeing what this looks like, this is just a sample that I did pretty quickly this morning. So anyway, so obviously my parents would love to have this door installed because it is going to be durable for the next 25, 30 years. And as you are all very aware, the standard wood doors, have a shelf life of maybe 5 to 10, especially with the density of the wood products that's out there right now. So I've got, I think, 3 wood doors installed right now, and I'm not super happy with the way they're weathering, and all of them are less than 10 years old currently. So it would be great to have an opportunity to try to prove the efficacy of a solution. So, and I know that you guys would like to continue, and if that's where we need to be, well, then we can definitely continue. Right now we are secure, if not lovely.
Mr. Reinke?
Yes.
I mean, I think that your solutions could work, and And mainly, you know, you've been here many times, so I feel secure, I mean, that you're, that you understand what we're going for, but I would be open to letting Mr. Rinke go ahead and make the changes that he suggested, because I think that he is qualified to get the kind of work that we're looking for. I don't think in this case, with a garage door, that I would hesitate, I wouldn't hesitate to vote for it.
So Commissioner Meacham, I'm understanding that you would be in favor of an approval?
Is that the entire thing it's covering, or?
No, this would, I don't know if you guys have the pictures that I submitted, but it's a kind of carriage house door look is what we were going for. So the overlay would actually be about 30%. I actually did a calculation when I was doing this.
What part of it is it covering?
It's would,
I mean, is it covering the straight, I mean?
it would, oh, there we go. It'd
Okay.
look a lot like that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. To whomever got it up. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, so, yeah, I think I did a calculation for this, and it was about 30%, you know. So, and it would be obviously all of the vertical and horizontal elements would be, you know, what that thermoplastic is. So, interesting stuff. I actually carved a chunk out of the back end of the panel they gave me and set it in a thing of water for 24 hours, and it didn't soak up any. So, anyway, so we'd love to push forward with this solution if you guys will allow it. You know, so I know it's a big ask because it is a very visible door. You know, so on the plus side, if we do it right, it's a 30 to 50 year door as opposed to, you know, less than 10.
Sure. Do we have any other questions for the applicant? Is there any citizens that wish to speak on this particular project? Okay, so, I'm sorry, Joe, I'm not sure I'm quite understanding what you were kind of moving towards.
I'm just saying that Mr. Rinke has described what he thinks could be a compromise by using Bondo to cover the areas where there should not be grainy looking areas.
Right.
And then after he does that and paints it, is that what you do? That it would still have that appearance that we were looking for. I don't, you know, staff can make comments on that or whatever. If you think that would be a really bad idea, I'd like to hear it.
So would it be appropriate to continue it, but that kind of, well, I guess the commission probably needs to vote, not just Commissioner Meacham's opinion.
I mean, I'll make a motion, you know, and you all can vote however you want. Or, you know, we can continue if you, I mean, if staff thinks that that's, I mean, I hear what he's saying. What he's saying is he's gonna have to take the garage door off. It's no good anymore because the company does not have a appropriate material. Is that correct?
That's pretty much correct, yeah.
So, but you were looking at this company. Was there something appropriate that you were considering?
Yeah, and, you know, come to find out that, you know, the door that I was actually angling towards, which is what's called a full overlay door, was something on the order of 20 grand. Okay. And my words to the representative the other day was like, if that's my only choice, then I'll just buy a wood door because that's like $3,000 to $5,000, and I'll just buy one every 5 years, and 25 years from now, I'll still be ahead of the game. So, and he's like, well, we don't want to do that. So, anyway, so that's kind of where we find ourselves. This is a last-ditch effort to basically use this company and push forward. I actually really like the door, and I think that this will work, and I think it'll work great, but, you know, I also don't want to hang it up just to have to take it back down.
Sure.
And, you know, I do, as Mary Jo said, I spend a lot of time here, so I'll see you guys next month, as a matter of fact. So it's important to me to honor what we're trying to achieve with this preservation, you know.
So my thought, you know, I think if we found the right garage door, it could easily be administratively approved, which is why I might push for a continuance. However, I think after hearing Commissioner Meacham's position too, I could support that motion as well. And so I think I would be in favor of either a continuance and allow you to work with staff to make sure we have a door, if you can research and find a door that truly is the right fit for this particular project, that's best. I think secondarily, if we go with Commissioner Meacham's motion, I think that's another alternative.
Well, I know which one I prefer.
I bet you do.
Was this, remind me, because I remember the original case, but I don't remember if this was a garage that fit under the purview of new construction versus one that's a rehab. And the reason I asked the question is if it's falls under the purview of new construction, smooth materials, those types of things are appropriate and supported by the guide, which would be in your favor if that were the case, but I don't have that
Right.
recollection.
Is it new construction?
This, I mean, essentially it is new construction. You know, we were able to, prove the case that the old garage wasn't really salvageable in its state. And so we took it down
Right,
and
so
rebuilt
It's all new.
it as new.
It's new.
So the guidelines allow for new garage vehicle doors in a new construction garage to be solid wood, wood veneer with a concealed metal frame, composite materials including fiberglass or wood fiber, 85% minimum wood fiber content. Metal garage doors are acceptable in certain districts, including Shepherd, but can only be used at garages that are located at the back of the lot, minimally visible from the street. So staff's concern were that we were not confident that this particular composite product met the criteria as described for a composite material, and that metal portions of the door would remain exposed. I have not previously seen an application to coat a metal door with another product. So I would have concern, number one, about kind of opening the door for that without having a better understanding of how that was going to work and how that was going to look. I would also say that the commission typically doesn't approve something, simply on the basis that, well, this is kind of the best product we can get from this company that we're working with. We typically ask people to at least show that they've made a real effort to find a product that met the guidelines. So those would be staff's concern at this time with looking at this proposal.
So after hearing that, I think it probably needs a continuance for let the applicant work with staff to find something that is suitable or exhaust every single avenue and roll back to this.
Okay, so we're going to continue. That's what we're going to do.
We have two options for continuance, I believe. Katie, you want to help me out with those? Wednesday, May 3rd.
May 3rd or June 7th, and we had thought June 7th might be better for you to give you more time. You've already, the garage is secure, so I don't think you're in a
Let's do
hurry
June.
from that standpoint. Yeah.
June.
Okay.
That'll work, so.
Do we have a motion? Or is that a motion that we want to entertain, I guess?
I motion to continue HPCA 2100192 to the June meeting.
Do we have a second?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Remy, second by Commissioner Poore. Everybody please vote in PrimeGov.
Commissioner Meacham?
Okay, that motion was passed unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, HPCA 2300012, 806 Northwest 16th Street. Is the applicant present?
This is in Mesta Park, Ward 6. Consideration and possible action on application by Mike Patterson, AMMP Studio LLC, for David Howell for a certificate of appropriateness. I won't read off all the items, but this is backyard landscape improvements for the most part. as noted in the agenda. The commission has seen this once previously and was continued with a number of different moving parts being revised based on discussion at the previous meeting. The applicant has made several revisions, including to permeable and impermeable surfaces to get that number down significantly. They've made changes to the porch railing that was a concern previously, and staff has recommended approval at this time.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure. I'm Liz Howell. I live at 806 Northwest 16th. I just wanted to say thank you all for the feedback last time. We've lived in historic districts the whole time we've been in Oklahoma City, and worked with the city before to redo structural issues at our old house, and also just do some changes to make it more historically accurate. So we are happy to work with you to come to a solution that works for everyone. So Mike, who I'll turn it over to in a little bit, will answer any specific questions, because he's been working very closely with the city to address all of the concerns that emerged last time. So yeah, we're excited to hopefully work out any outstanding kinks and move forward with this. So I don't know if anyone questions for me or for Mike, but that's my spiel.
Staff has recommended approval on everything, and I think the only, the only thing that really stuck out to me was the kind of the chain link mesh trellis, but I also don't see that as a major sticking point as well. Any questions from commissioners on this particular item?
We have a letter from, is it from a neighborhood meeting
Is this a new?
or a neighbor?
In support, I don't know that I've seen that one.
It says, "We think," is this in regards to just the person that sent the email?
That is
that-
from, I believe that is from the neighborhood association.
Okay. So it does say that we think that 70% is impermeable coverage is inappropriate, and the 58% is too high. Excess water has to go somewhere, and it will likely run off into neighboring yards, or yard or street. We also believe the metal fencing is inappropriate and object to the height, 8 feet. So
Is that the one from last time that we took into consideration with the conversations?
this is, it's dated April
yeah.
4th.
It is new. I will say the lot coverage is now at roughly 62.4%, increasing from 61. So they've reduced that significantly from what was proposed before. Let's see. The fence height is 8 feet, or the trellis is 8 feet. That is the height that's allowed for a rear fence. And they have a rear fence that is solid. So staff felt that that was providing adequate screening of the trellis within the backyard.
If I may, the trellis, the goal there is to have it be a green wall. So we'll be growing, the goal is to not be able to see any of the chain link, and then there will be the solid wood fence behind it anyway.
Is there anything that's higher than 8 feet?
I'm going to turn that specific question over to you, since I know you've been working with them on this.
I mean, the
Sir,
deck obviously
sir,
is higher
can-
than 8 feet. Oh,
can
sorry,
you name
Mark
and address?
Patterson,
Yeah.
AMP Studio, the architect for the project. But to your question, the deck is taller than 8 feet, but we're still within the allowable limits within the guidelines.
And what about the shower?
And that's at 11 feet, but it's still below the allowable finished floor per those guidelines also.
I guess I remember discussing the railing, but was staff comfortable with using I thought that we discussed the wire fencing was not appropriate, but it's still there. Did any of it go away?
It was on the deck previously, but that's been removed with the rail that matches the home. But that's a metal mesh that's to be used for growing ivy.
It's the
So-
trellis that's,
On the,
yeah.
But we did remove it from the porch railing where it was previously in the last application.
so it's not between the bottom of the it's not under the railing that's on the porch?
Not anymore, no.
Okay. I just saw that picture. Okay.
we sub that in to have wood that matches the existing railing that's on the
Right.
second floor there.
But you see, you keep saying railing, what about the balusters? There's no balusters, there's more wire fence, but you're saying that's for growing.
That's two separate things. So we once, the metal mesh was on the trellis, and it still is. We also had it on the railing under the railing on the porch or the deck. That's been removed and been replaced with railing that matches their balcony on the second floor, which is not visible in this picture.
Okay. I thought there was a picture included that had mesh on the railing. So are you saying it's only limited to the 8-foot
Trellis.
trellis?
That's the only place it will be.
I think we may be still seeing old pictures
Old pictures?
That
Okay.
might be an old rendering
have-
that you're referring to.
Yeah.
That was with the first application. That was not revised for the second application. That rendering was not revised, but the drawings for construction was revised to eliminate that mesh from the deck.
Okay. Does staff have a drawing?
We
of that?
have drawings from them of that, and they've confirmed that with staff, so we'll make sure we have the correct documentation in the approval materials, if approved.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 26 shows an elevation, and you've got some horizontal slatting.
Correct.
As the railing
Thank you.
material.
Here, on the second floor, there's a small railing above the back door on the photo on your
Right.
presentation screen, and then
I see
this
that. I mean,
elevation shows the,
That's not original, is it? I mean, you're not saying.
I would not expect so, but they're just matching an existing feature.
Right. Okay.
And this is low, and it is on the rear of the house, and it is not visible from any public right-of-way.
Correct. Yep, it's on the rear of the home.
I personally don't, if the lot coverage is 1% higher of what it currently is, I don't think it's their burden to lessen that to below 4%. So I have no issue there.
Could you describe how you got that?
Part of it was just some descriptions that we had with Daryl. He and I had some discussions on how to reduce it. And previously, the pervious area was covered, or the impervious area included the deck. We've now reduced to make sure that the area under the deck is bare ground, so that makes it pervious. And so that's how we reduced a large portion of that number.
Yeah, I'm encouraged by the effort from last month's meeting to reduce that lot coverage, and if it's only a 1% difference now, that doesn't bother me.
That's kind of how I feel too. I think that the applicants worked really hard to get this within the guidelines, and they've done a pretty good job with it, and I'd be supportive of an approval.
Yeah, and I think just not a stated requirement, but knowing that that is a concern from the neighborhood, anything during construction that can be done to redirect or mitigate any water runoff, I think is
Okay.
a good Samaritan effort.
Sure. We'll work with the contractor on that.
Do we have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry. Does anybody from the public wish to speak? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for HPCA 23-00012 with the specific findings listed in the staff report.
Have a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Poore. Is that you, Commissioner Corbin? I'm sorry, Commissioner Whitley, that was you over there. Second by Commissioner Whitley. Please vote in PrimeGov. Okay, that motion was passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on to item number 4, HPCA 23-00019 at 224 Northwest 33rd Street.
This is in Edgemere Park, Ward 2, consideration and possible action on application by Corey Bates, 8 for Dwight Lawson, for certificate of appropriateness to 1, install solar panels and related mechanical equipment elective. And you'll note in the staff report, we kind of split that out. Solar panels on the primary dwelling and on the accessory structure.
Okay, and I will note, we do have a letter in support from neighbors as well on this particular project. So just want to throw that out there. Let's see. So how are you?
Good.
Good.
Good. Hope all of you are well as well.
To me, I looked at this one and it looks on the surface like it's close to something that we could approve, which got me really excited. I see this, I see the panels that you've proposed. I think they're minimally visible from the street, which is great. However, what I think we need from you and the applicant is a specific, unique circumstance that we could use to potentially push this over the edge. So I'm curious if there's anything, the guidelines do state that certain panels should not be placed in locations that you've got them. So talk us through what unique circumstances exist. I look at the roof line, and again, it shields from the front face of the street, but and talking with staff, it does appear that maybe 30% of the panels are visible or are publicly viewable. So just as FYI for this group.
Would it be possible to delete some so that they wouldn't be visible?
Any deletion is reducing the amount of power that's being produced.
Would you rather have none?
I'm sorry?
Would you rather have none? I'm just asking, I mean, is that your answer? It's either yes, you have to have all the panels, or not, or it's a no-go?
I'd love to talk through it if we could, and maybe find a place where all of the panels are acceptable. The system right now is proposed as 15.5 kilowatts.
Right.
And it generates a 63%.
And we're just concerned about what it looks like. I'm just saying that if you're not willing, if the project is, I just want the answer. Are you saying that you have to have all of them to make the project work? Because that, I think, is going to affect our decision.
Sure. Yes.
Yes, can you state your name and address for the record too, please?
Sure, Dwight Lawson, 224 Northwest 33rd. Just to answer that question, with the coverage that's on there now, the 63% or whatever of the offset is kind of the minimal amount that makes it financially viable to do solar on the house. If we take more off, it drops it down to where it's just doesn't make sense for us.
So, in reference to talking about a unique circumstance where this may be acceptable, if it's possible, I do have some examples of other installations within historic neighborhoods where panels are minimally visible or visible from the street, and maybe talk through the impact that those have on the historic character of the homes and of the street. And maybe, I mean, we've talked about a number of these projects to date, and it's very new, and there's not a lot out there to look at and really understand what these would look like on homes, but we've done a couple. I emailed the presentation very late. I don't know if it made it in. If it did not, I have physical handouts, if I could. I can't.
We cannot take those today.
Sir, I
Yes.
still would ask, I mean, that is the question here, minimally. What is the minimal? I mean, and so to me, it doesn't fit our guidelines when you say they'll be minimally visible when our guidelines say not visible.
So
how do we get from minimal without discussing the energy or the cost or anything? Because we're all just concerned about the design and appearance.
And I completely agree, and I'm very sensitive to it as well. It does not meet the guidelines. The guidelines state that panels shall not be visible from the street, and the proposed installation, from this image, you can see the back roof where the corner of the array would be visible. What I would offer is that the role of the commission is to interpret those guidelines. And if everything was decided based on the language in the guidelines, there wouldn't be a need for a commission. And that there needs to be some level of judgment with an application and what homeowners are trying to do, improve their homes, produce renewable energy on site, excuse me, that there's some level of judgment, some level of interpretation of the guidelines. There's instances here. I served on DDRC for 7 years. There were a number of instances where the judgment of the commission superseded the letter of the law, the language in the guidelines, because it did make sense. Or in this case, I would propose it doesn't compromise the historical character of the house or the neighborhood.
I mean, I see where you're going, and I do, I think that there's people on, I mean, I'm not necessarily against solar or anything like that.
Sure.
And I know that there's, we have differences on the commission of, people wanting them or not. I can see in the future that we are going to have to address this issue. But in the meantime, me personally, I just feel like that we need to hold a line, because it just people continue to do it, then that just makes it where every time we just have to make, a little here or a little there. We're not fair here, but kind of fair there. It makes me feel like that's where, it's not about you
Sure.
or your project or
Yep.
anything like that, or solar energy. It's just that the unique circumstance would have to be the project won't work unless you get the whole deal. And so I don't see that. I mean, it's hard for me personally to state that as my unique circumstance if I made a motion to approve, because the project won't work unless. So I'm sympathetic, but it's really hard to get to that unique circumstance in my opinion.
I tend to agree with Commissioner Meacham, and that honestly, that's kind of why I started off in the front with what unique circumstance exists that we can use to support the decision to move away from what the guidelines specifically state. I don't want to deny this today. I would be in favor of a continuance to let you go and brainstorm on that particular item and come back to us and say, here's the unique circumstances that exist. But I don't know that we've heard anything, I haven't heard anything compelling today.
Yeah, I mean, I was laughing as you walked up. I was like, God, this guy's a glutton for punishment.
I'll be back too. Well, so if I may, talking about there needs to be changes, I would ask when. I mean,
We've talked about it. It's on our schedule to have work sessions, but the city, these things just, it initiates here. We have to have public hearings. We have to have everybody from the neighborhood come in and comment. That has to go to the planning commission and so forth and so on. So we only do it when we have maybe more than one. We can't just, we have other issues that we'd like to change over time, but we're ready, and you're on our radar.
I'd love
But
to
it's just not
get some
right
dates
now.
on the calendar for those things.
It's just not right now.
We are planning to have a workshop next Wednesday, and we'll get the agenda published shortly, and this is one of the topics to move forward on, something addressing this. For a very long time, we've been putting off any guideline revisions because of the larger code update, but we've reached the point of saying we can't wait any longer for the code update. We need to address this, and we need to address some other things quicker than that is going to allow us to. So
That's great.
yeah, so Wednesday, Embark, large conference room, whichever way that is.
Is that open to the public? Or?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great.
So what I was going to say is that in my general position is that PV or solar panels have an adverse visual effect on the historic character. That's my general feeling. In this particular case, I think, like as you're approaching from, I think it's the west, looks like there's a crepe myrtle, there's trees, there's vegetation. As you're approaching from the east, it looks like the tightness of the house. It's not on the primary massing of the house, it's set back. I think you kind of got to look for it. So, I mean, I think in this particular case, I don't think it has a adverse effect unless you're really seeking out and looking for it. However, that's not how the guideline is written. So this is kind of for me, if this is one that could get pushed across the finish line, I think this is the opportunity for it.
I agree. I think while I acknowledge that it doesn't officially meet the guidelines of being completely hidden, I think what you do see is very minimal. And me personally, climate change is a huge issue that I'm very passionate about. And, I think we're behind in addressing what needs to be done. And I agree with Commissioner Remy, if we can push this through, I think personally we should, because it's minimal.
So to
I would just
echo,
say, and I understand passion for climate control, but this is not the Climate Control Commission, is what I think. Our passion here is historic preservation. And
but it does have a whole section, 1.4 in our guidelines, that
Yes,
talk about historic
does.
preservation and sustainability.
But
And the definition that it reads is sustainable development meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And I think that's where we are, is
Still got a
trying to meet their
specific-
own needs of energy efficiency so that things can be affordable and can progress
we
into the
still have
future.
a specific guideline on this particular issue.
But we also have a whole section that talks about sustainability. So, I mean,
So what would be the unique circumstance?
that it is not compromising the ability of of the historic character and is allowing for the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
It also doesn't permanently change the character. It's something that can be taken off and undone should that need ever arise. If future homeowners don't like the way it looks, they can take it down and it doesn't change anything. The home is as it was.
Yeah, I think working some language where it's not on the primary massing of the building, set to the rear, minimally visible, without an adverse negative aesthetic effect. I
And
mean,
meets the needs of future, blah, 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 whatever Cassie just said.
I think you can get there.
I will note that in our guidelines specific for roofs, we allow for new dormers located on non-primary facades, and that it is not appropriate to locate new features on front or street-facing elevations, such as on a corner lot. So, the guidelines are permissive to that extent with a feature like a dormer that I would say is potentially much more dramatic change to a roof form and a much more permanent change to a roof form. So just throwing that out there, there's some language that already exists in the guidelines that could be a reference point for the commission. And I thought we had something similar for skylights. Oh, yeah. Oh, that is less helpful.
Don't read that then.
Okay. Skylights must be located on back slopes, not visible from the public right-of-way.
Okay, I know we have somebody from the public that wishes to speak as well. Let's listen to them.
Hi, thank you. Lindsay Peaver, 225 Northwest 33rd Street. I live directly across from the subject property, and I'm appearing today to make comments in support of the application. While those of us choosing to live in Historic Preservation District very much value the protections in place, it is also important that we evolve with emerging technology to allow these modifications in a reasonable way. Good examples of this evolution are natural gas meters and electric distribution lines that are currently in place and visible that did not exist when the homes were originally built. I do hope that this and other solar energy projects will be approved by the Commission and the Council. This particular project, in my view, is in conformance with the requirements of the code. And the two angles that are in these photos are, well, for one, the screening was mentioned, and we allow a lot of things in historic preservation when there's screening present. In these particular photos, those are all bare trees. Especially the two angles that sort of are at the side of the home, you would have to literally be standing at the very right second, at the very right angle to see the sides of those homes. And if you see that crepe myrtle that belongs to the east neighbor or the west neighbor's house, you literally cannot see that roof for many, many months during the year. And again, if you were on a walk passing this, you really couldn't see those from the street. So I know you guys kind of talked about minimally visible versus visible, and right here, if you stood right there at that angle, you could see them, but if you were just passing by, you couldn't. And I also, just having sat here for the last hour and heard what was approved with the garage that was not in conformance, to me, it was, a lot more dramatic than this one. And I also was involved in HPCA-23-00010, was administratively approved. It's a massive project where ONG is moving meters and lines, and they didn't even have to come forth with the photos like this, and we're all going to have to deal with them, on a one-on-one basis, which, for the record, I will say they've been amazing to work with already. But I just wanted to give that as another example of I don't see solar panels, especially looking into the future, as super different than electric distribution lines. It just allows the homeowner a little more autonomy in terms of how they get their power, but the lines are draped all over, meters are in view in many, many historic properties. So just wanted to say some comments in support, and I hope that you all would approve this and other reasonable modifications that include solar. Thank you.
I kind of see it, this may be a bad example, but also like satellites attached to houses too. It's not much different. Okay, so where do we want to go with this one?
I'm prepared to make a motion if I could have a moment, unless there are other discussion points.
I just want to say I appreciate solar panels, but I also appreciate the process. We have, as a commission, spoke about this. It does feel like, I don't want to put words in everybody's mouth, that we are in support of this, but I would just like to see us try to follow the process in going outside the guidelines and making sure we're giving residents in these neighborhoods the opportunity to come before us, to come to workshops and speak, to when we do get to this point that we want to make a decision as a commission. We've done everything to get the word out, to let the residents speak in these neighborhoods. So I just want to say that.
Right here.
I would add too that, I don't want to be the Lone Ranger, but I'm also speaking for all the people that live there. And they live there expecting for the guidelines to be followed. And so when they see things, when things happen and they think that, we have voted for something that they feel like was in the guidelines that they worked so hard to have over the last 51 years or so, then, I feel like I'm trying to speak for them too, because they've lived there, they've bought property, they've lived there for years, and they have their own expectations. And when they see this, they're like, what's the commission doing? We thought you couldn't have them except for in certain places. So it's not really just this one house, it's the expectations of everybody that's been living there for a very long time. And even people that are buying today, they read the guidelines and they say, hey, I can live with those. I'm buying the house there. Therefore, it's a restriction, but I accept that, and I'm going to do the best I can to follow that. So, you've got a lot of people that are really trying to follow them the best they can, and they expect that that's going to happen with their neighbors. So until we change them, that's their expectation. It seems sometimes unfair to them to go too far with a unique circumstance and have them come back and say, why are you doing this? Because that's what the thing says. So I'm not speaking really against individual projects at all. I am speaking from the guidelines and the expectations of many of the other people that live there.
I share that responsibility on the other side of the coin for the dozens of folks that I've spoken with that live in HP neighborhoods, myself included, that want to see solar and want to see the guidelines change. And so
and make sure that you have a majority of the neighborhood. I mean, you've spoke to dozens, but we're talking about when we change the guidelines, we need consensus from all of the people that live there, not just, not just people that are for solar, for people that are others. So like I say, I'm not speaking against a single project. I'm trying to speak up for the guidelines.
all I'm trying to do is express my position as well,
Hey,
but
guys,
I'm getting cut off.
Let's go. Hey, I think all of these truths can be, true at the same time.
Yes.
And I think we can just leave it at that.
Yeah,
I think we've had probably enough conversation about this on both sides today. I'd love to hear a motion at this point.
Okay. I make a motion to approve HPCA 23-00019 with the specific findings as noted in the staff report and with the unique circumstances that the proposal is attaching not to the primary massing of the structure, that it is set to the rear and is not forward-facing, that it is in alignment with the sustainability goals of the guidelines, that it is minimally visible without a negative aesthetic impact on the historic character of the neighborhood, and that it is supported by an adjacent neighbor.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Remy, second by Commissioner Whitley. Please vote in PrimeGov. Okay, that motion carries by a vote of 5-2. Congratulations.
Thank you all. Very much appreciate the discussion and look forward to the workshop next week.
Great, thank you. Okay, that takes us through our cases for individual consideration. We do have one item under other business, which is a home sharing application. It is BOA 15311 at 720 Northwest 25th Street. It does not appear that the applicant is here. Katie, would you like to give us the synopsis?
Yep, so this is in Paseo, Ward 2, possible action on application by Gary Wordworth to provide a recommendation to Board of Adjustment regarding an application for special exception to allow home sharing. This is in one of our neighborhoods that has an HL overlay. So the provisions about being owner occupied, the owner being on site at the time of rental do not apply in this neighborhood. We did not see any reason that allowing home sharing here would have an adverse effect on the historic character of the property or the surrounding district, and we've recommended approval.
Does anybody like
Or
to discuss
recommended
this
a
one?
recommendation of approval.
There seems to be, is there a discrepancy between the property address and the number address?
Where are you seeing that?
Oh, yeah, it says
on
28th Street
28th.
on the staff report, but it says 25th Street on the agenda. So which one is it?
Well,
What challenges does this cause? Or is it
Well, and
similar?
it appears the 28th Street is the correct address.
On the
Okay.
application as 28. Oh.
okay.
Is this one we're gonna have to push for the same reasons as earlier?
Yeah, the agenda says the 25th.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll have to bring them back.
Okay. Do we have to motion to
So
continue?
yeah, no action because it's
No
not
action.
on there correctly.
I retract my previous statement. There is no other items under other business. We had 10 administrative approvals under communications and reports, no withdrawals, no administrative closings, nothing from city council's news, nothing from board of adjustments or the planning commission. Rita?
Nope.
Nothing from municipal councilor's office. The next regularly scheduled meeting for the Historic Preservation Commission is Wednesday, May 3rd at 2 p.m. in the Municipal Building, City Council Chambers. New applications for this meeting were received April 4th, 2023. New information on projects continued from today's meeting to the upcoming meeting must be submitted to staff by 4 p.m. Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. The next scheduled workshop with the Historic Preservation Commission is Wednesday, April 12th, 2023, from 11:30 to 1:30 at the Embark Large Conference Room at 431 West Main Street. I think that's everything. The next regularly scheduled workshop with the Historic Preservation Commission is Wednesday, June 14th, 2023, from 11:30 to 1:30 at Embark Large Conference Room at 431 West Main Street. Do we have any items from commissioners that we want to discuss today? Are there any citizens that wish to be heard? Our meeting is adjourned.